Good evening, and welcome. Tonight, we'll be taking our time drifting back through the dust and heat of ancient Rome, but not to visit emperors or scholars or marble forums. No, tonight, we walk beside someone far more ordinary and far more dangerous, a gladiator. Not the kind from the stories, all glory and cheering crowds, but the real kind, the tired kind, the kind who wakes up in a stone barracks, eats a bowl of barley, and trains until the sun slips behind the arena wall. This is a slower sort of story, one without fanfare, just dust, sweat and routine. So find somewhere comfortable, let your mind settle, and together we'll follow a quiet day in the life of a Roman gladiator. You awaken in darkness, long before dawn. The air is cool and still inside your small stone cell. You lie on a simple straw mattress, rough against your skin, staring up at the faint outline of the ceiling. All around you, other gladiators are beginning to stir. You can hear the soft sounds of breathing and the shuffling of weary bodies rising to meet another day. Your home is the ludus, the gladiator training school, a fortified barracks where you and dozens of others eat, sleep, and train for combat. The cells are arranged in neat rows like a barracks, encircling an open courtyard that serves as the practice arena. Each cell is narrow and spare, with iron bars across the front. The scent of dust, sweat, and old straw hangs in the air. As you swing your legs to the floor, your muscles protest. A dull ache lingers from yesterday's exertions. It's a familiar ache, one you've grown used to. Soreness means you're getting stronger. At least that's what your lanista, the owner of the gladiator school, likes to say. Outside your cell, the sky is just beginning to lighten to a pale grey. Dawn is approaching. Usually the day's routine begins at first light, but many of you wake even earlier. In the pre-dawn hush, you have a few moments to gather your thoughts. You are a gladiator in ancient Rome, a warrior slave trained to fight and bleed for the entertainment of the crowd. You take a slow breath and steady yourself. In this quiet moment, you can almost forget the arena's roar. You feel only the cool air on your arms and the weight of the chain around your waist. At night, novices and the most rebellious might be shackled to prevent escape, though trusted fighters often sleep unchained. Not long ago, you swore the sacred gladiator's oath, to endure being burned, bound, beaten, and killed by the sword if necessary. The words echo in your memory whenever doubt creeps in. You have resigned yourself to this life, for now, and you face each day with stoic resolve. The distant clang of a gong or bell signals daybreak. Light seeps in as the sun climbs, revealing the beige-plastered walls of the compound. From down the corridor, the doctore, the trainer, a former gladiator himself, shouts a gruff wake-up call. His voice is firm but calm, carrying authority. One by one, you and your fellow fighters step out of your cells into the open courtyard. The soft glow of morning sunlight washes over the sand-covered training yard. You squint upward and see a sliver of the sky turning from purple to blue. Around the yard, torches that burned through the night are being extinguished, wisps of smoke curling in the air. You join a line of gladiators at the fountain to splash your face and rinse your mouth. The water is cold and bracing. Fully awake now, you see the others clearly, men of various origins, physiques and temperaments. Some are as young as late teens, others hardened veterans with scarred limbs and weathered faces. A few bear tattoos or branding marks on their arms or legs, signs that they were once condemned criminals, damnati, before being sent here. In the growing light, you notice the hierarchies among the fighters. The veterans, those of higher status and proven skill, stand a bit taller, moving with calm confidence. Newer recruits, noviticer, cluster together uncertainly, still getting used to the brutal rhythms of gladiator life. Rutiari, lightly armed net fighters, linger on one side among their own kind, while the heavily armored swordsmen like murmillos and secutoras group on another side. The lanista enforces this separation of types and ranks. Even in captivity, there is a strict pecking order. It wouldn't do to let a scrawny net fighter get into a brawl with a brawny heavy before the actual games. Each of you is a valuable investment, and discipline here is tight. As the sun edges over the walls, breakfast is brought out by kitchen slaves. You line up with your comrades to receive your morning ration. It's a simple meal, as usual, a bowl of thick barley porridge studded with boiled beans, accompanied by a piece of coarse bread. Sometimes there are dried figs or dates, small bursts of sweetness amid the bland fare. You eat slowly, sitting on a wooden bench at a long table in the courtyard. The food is filling and heavy. Gladiators are fed for stamina, not for taste. In fact, the diet here is famously plain and rich in carbohydrates. Gladiators are often called hordieri, barley eaters, because of how much barley we consume. The Romans normally consider barley an inferior grain. Wheat bread is the staple of the free citizen, yet they deliberately give us barley as they believe it builds a stronger body. You chew the porridge, which is warm and hearty, reminding yourself that this food is meant to bulk you up and even add a layer of protective fat over your muscles. The idea is that a slightly thicker body can better withstand cuts in the arena, a grim practical wisdom you try not to dwell on too much in this peaceful morning hour. As you eat, you glance around at the others at the table. In the soft chatter, you hear a mix of languages and accents. Men from far corners of the empire have ended up here. To your left, a Gaul with blonde hair and a broad frame scoops porridge to his mouth. He was captured in war years ago. Across from you sits a lean Greek who speaks of philosophical ideas when he's not sharpening a blade. He actually sold himself into gladiatorial service, auctoratus, for a payout and a chance at fame. Indeed, not everyone here is a slave by birth or conquest. By the end of the Republic, many gladiators were criminals or free men who volunteered for the arena in exchange for money or to escape debt. You might be one of those volunteers, a citizen who signed a contract to join the ludus, or perhaps you were born a slave and sold into this profession. Either way, once you put on the gladiator's tunic, your old identity largely fell away. All that matters now is your skill and your courage. You reflect quietly on how the life of a gladiator has changed over the generations. In your grandfather's time, during the late Republic, most gladiators were prisoners of war from conquered lands, forced to fight at the extravagant funeral games thrown by ambitious politicians. Back then, powerful men like Julius Caesar staged massive munera, gladiatorial games, to win the public's favor and showcase Rome's dominance. Those early fighters were often hardened soldiers captured in battle, Gauls, Thracians, Samnites, made to reenact the wars Rome had won. In fact, many gladiator types are named after Rome's old enemies, the Samnite, the Thracian, the Gaul. You imagine those days when a wealthy nobleman could buy a few dozen fighters and hold games in the forum or in a makeshift wooden arena. It was a smaller, more raw affair then, before the great stone amphitheaters dotted the empire. And yet, even in those times, a gladiator's morning routine must have been similar, waking in a cell, eating a bowl of simple porridge, and preparing mentally for the trials ahead. Some things in this life remain constant across the years. Now, in the early imperial era, the time of emperors, the games have become a grand cornerstone of Roman entertainment and power. Emperors and magistrates control the shows. Permanent arenas like the Colosseum in Rome and amphitheaters in provincial cities host spectacles for tens of thousands of roaring spectators. Private citizens can no longer just hold gladiator games on a whim. Imperial permission is required, and many schools have been absorbed into the state system. The scale is immense. At the peak of the game's popularity, an emperor such as Trajan once held games that lasted over 100 days, with thousands of gladiators and animals slain for spectacle. You were not at those games, but the legends of them reach even the training yards, stories of flooded arenas for mock sea battles, and endless parade of exotic beasts. By contrast, your world within the ludus is small and routine, but it is directly connected to that larger Roman spectacle. Each of you at this breakfast table might one day stride out onto the sand of a packed arena, all eyes upon you. It's a thought both thrilling and sobering. You finish your porridge, using a crust of bread to scrape the bowl clean, and drain a cup of water. A medic walks around with a bucket and ladle, pouring each gladiator a special tonic to drink. You brace yourself for the taste. You've had it many times. It's a bitter brew of charred plant ashes mixed into vinegar and water. You gulp it down in a few swallows, grimacing at the ashy, alkaline tang. The medicus nods in approval. This concoction is given to you after training or with meals. It's believed to help fortify your bones and aid recovery from the physical strain. As unpleasant as it is, you welcome anything that might help your body endure the rigors of combat. Contemporary wisdom and recent experience has shown that gladiators benefit from extra calcium, and so you drink your chalk dutifully, imagining it knitting your bones stronger after every sparring session. With the meal concluded, it is time to train. The sun is higher now, the morning golden and cool, and the yard comes alive with activity. The doctor claps his hands and barks commands to assemble. You and your fellow fighters move to the center of the training ground, forming a rough circle. This open courtyard is covered in sand to cushion falls, a miniature arena just for you. Wooden training posts stand at intervals. Racks of practice weapons and weighted equipment line the edges. The walls around you are high, but above you the sky is open, and a few early rising spectators from the city have gathered at the gates of the ludus to watch the gladiators train. Sometimes locals peer in, hoping to catch a glimpse of their favorite fighter practicing or to size up newcomers. Gladiators are the superstar athletes of their day after all, and even a morning drill can draw curious onlookers. You start with stretches and basic exercises. Under the trainer's watchful eye, you rotate your arms, loosen your neck, and perform squats and lunges to limber up. Then come calisthenics. The doctor believes in strong fundamentals. You do a series of jumps, push-ups and sit-ups on the sand. A few of the more seasoned men run laps around the yard to build endurance, though you're not allowed to run freely outside the school like a boxer might. Your training is confined within these walls. Soon, a light sweat coats your skin. The morning air fills with the sounds of exertion, heavy breathing, feet shuffling in sand, an occasional grunt. Despite the calm discipline, training is intense. Every man here knows that slacking is not an option. The Lanista has been known to order harsh punishments for those who show lack of commitment. You've seen the cramped punishment cell, a tiny closet of a room where a disobedient gladiator might spend a night hunched over in darkness. You have no intention of earning a stay in there. After warming up, you move on to weapons drills. Sharp weapons are forbidden during training. Nobody wants an accidental death or maiming in practice. Instead, you and your comrades use wooden swords and dulled spears, some of them weighted heavier than real weapons to build your strength. You pick up your wooden gladius, feeling its solid heft. It's longer and heavier than the real iron sword you'll use in the arena, a deliberate challenge to make your arms stronger. Your practice shield is made of wood and wicker, scuffed from many sessions. Under the trainer's orders, you pair off with a partner to spar. Your partner this morning is one of your closer comrades, a tall, tan-skinned man from Syria. He's armed himself with a wooden trident and net, taking on the role of a retiarius, while you carry sword and shield in the style of a secutor. This is a common pairing for real fights, the nimble net and trident fighter against the heavily armored pursuer. Though this is just practice, you both take it seriously. The trainer expects a realistic bout. The goal is to mimic the conditions of the arena as closely as possible, without causing fatal harm. You square off on the sand. Around you, other pairs of gladiators are doing the same. You catch glimpses of different fighting styles in play. Over by a corner, two Thracian Thrax fighters with curved wooden swords are exchanging quick slashing strikes, their small shields clacking with each block. Near them, a Hoplamarchus practices thrusting a blunt spear at a teammate who defends with a round shield. In another area, a pair of heavily armored Murmillo fighters are trading heavy blows, their wooden swords thudding against thick practice shields. The yard is filled with the rhythmic sound of wood striking wood, punctuated by shouts and the trainer's occasional sharp whistle to call order. You and your partner circle each other, kicking up little clouds of dust. He flicks the net in small motions, testing, while you hold your shield steady and sword poised. Even in practice, your heart beats a little faster, a mix of focus and the ingrained warrior instinct. He lunges with the trident, and you sidestep, feeling the whoosh of air as the prongs jab past your shoulder. You counter with a swing of your wooden sword toward his flank. He hops back nimbly, armor rattling, though as a retiarius, he wears minimal armor, just an arm guard and shoulder guard. The two of you fall into a familiar pattern of attack and defense. Much of gladiator training is like choreography. You learn various moves and counter-moves by repeated rehearsal. You practice an elegant economy of motion, conserving energy, executing each strike cleanly. The trainer values efficiency and skill over wild aggression. In a real match, spectacle is important. You want to entertain, but flailing about without technique will just get you killed quickly. So here, under the rising sun, you spar with discipline. Every so often, the doctor steps in to adjust someone's stance or demonstrate a better angle of attack. He might catch your wrist and growl, hold your sword higher, protect your neck, or to your partner, spread that net wide before you cast it, not like a fisherman, but like a hunter. After a few minutes, the trainer claps for partners to switch or rotate. He directs some specific drills, thrusts at the wooden post. You move to a heavy wooden stake fixed in the ground, a pallas. Facing this post, you practice your stabbing thrusts and shield bashes as if it were an opponent. The post has taken countless blows, chips and dents scar its surface. You plant your feet in the sand and stab forward repeatedly, aiming for an imaginary foe's vital spots. This solitary drill builds your strength and precision. Sweat beads on your forehead and torso as you work. The repetitive motion, combined with steady breathing, becomes almost meditative. Strike, withdraw, step, strike again. You lose yourself in the rhythm for a time, focusing your mind on the point of your wooden sword, hitting the post again and again. Between drills, you steal brief moments to stretch your arms and roll your shoulders. The trainer allows short breaks to drink water and catch your breath. As you pause, you glance at the sun, now fairly high in the sky, indicating late morning. Training has been going on for a couple of hours. Your body is slick with sweat and speckled with sand. You can feel the burn in your thighs and shoulders. It's hard work, but you take a certain pride in it. Gladiator training is as strenuous as any soldier's, perhaps even more. After all, your life will depend on your skill in a very direct way. And unlike a soldier who fights in a unit, you will stand alone under the eyes of the crowd. That thought is never far from your mind. During a short water break, you find yourself standing near two of the more veteran gladiators. One is an older Gaul, with countless scars crisscrossing his back. The other, a Spaniard with a missing ear, earned in some fight long ago. They're quietly discussing tactics and past matches. You overhear the Gaul mention a time he fought in the Colosseum in Rome, how loud the crowd of 50,000 was, how the emperor himself watched from a special box. The Spaniard chuckles, saying he prefers the provincial arenas where things are a bit less formal. They notice you listening, and the Gaul gives you a friendly clap on the shoulder. "Pay attention, youngster," he says in a low, amiable tone. "You survive your first fight, maybe you'll live to be as ugly as me." It's gallows humor, but you smile politely. In truth, you know that many of you here will not live beyond your 20s. The brutal fact is that gladiators often die young, cut down in their prime. The life expectancy is grim. Most either fall in their initial fights, or if they endure, a deadly blow in the arena might claim them by their mid-20s. Only a rare few survive long enough to retire old. This veteran Gaul in front of you is perhaps in his 30s, making him practically ancient in gladiator terms, and very lucky. He has likely won many bouts to last this long. You take his presence as a sign that it is possible to survive and even thrive for a time, with enough skill and luck. Break over. Training resumes with sparring matches that pit different styles against each other in mock fights. The Lannister himself comes out to observe these practice bouts. He is the head of the school, part coach, part businessman. By social class, a Lannister is often looked down upon. Romans rank him with unsavory professions like pimps and executioners, yet everyone here respects or even fears him. Your Lannister paces along the edge of the yard, arms folded, his critical eye watching each move. Now and then he shouts a command. "Keep your guard up. Valerius, put your weight into that strike." His presence adds a slight edge to the training. Everyone wants to impress the master, or at least avoid his ire. You're paired up again, this time with a different opponent for a more prolonged spar. The trainer wants to see a display as if it were a real contest. You and a Thracian-style fighter begin to duel in earnest, still with wooden weapons but full speed. The others form a loose ring to observe and take turns. This is a friendly competition, but also a way to gauge each fighter's progress. You dance across the sand, trading blows with the Thracian, who wields a curved wooden sickie and a small shield. His fighting style is agile and tricky. He tries to sidestep and get around your bigger shield. You manage to block his slash with a thump of wood on wood, then respond with a lunge. The onlookers murmur approval when you execute a particularly deft parry. The Thracian feints, then actually manages to tap your side. If his blade were real, that might have been a cut on your ribs. Focus. You chastise yourself silently, and you redouble your defense. Ultimately, the bout is called a draw by the trainer after a couple of intense minutes. Both of you are breathing hard but grinning, adrenaline pumping. These practice fights are where you earn respect among your peers. The trainer gives you both a nod for a good showing. The Lannister seems satisfied enough. He whispers something to an assistant while looking at you and your opponent, perhaps evaluating if you'll be ready for upcoming games. By midday, the sun beats down more forcefully, and the morning's training comes to a close. A horn sounds, indicating it's time to rest and eat again. You feel the morning's labor in every muscle, a satisfying fatigue. Sand clings to your legs and arms, mixing with sweat. Before lunch, a brief cleanup. Some gladiators take strips of cloth and wipe down their equipment. Others use a strigil, a curved metal scraper, to scrape sweat and dirt from their skin, the way Roman athletes do. You run a cool, wet cloth over your face, relishing the refreshment. A slave boy circulates with a jar of olive oil and offers it to those who want it. You pour a bit in your palm and rub it on your arms and shoulders, then wipe it off along with the grime, leaving your skin a little cleaner. It's not quite a bath, but it helps. Lunch is simpler than breakfast. A bit of bread, maybe some cheese and fruit. Gladiators eat surprisingly well for slaves, since our physical condition is paramount to our owners. You sit in the shade of a colonnade, nibbling a handful of dates and almonds after finishing your bread. Around you the chatter is livelier now that hard training is done. There's laughter and joking among some of the men. Two gladiators arm wrestle for the last chunk of cheese, amid jeers and cheers from onlookers. The mood in the familiar, as the group of gladiators and staff is called, is fraternal in these off-duty moments. You share a camaraderie born of facing danger together. Some here even refer to each other as brother, and indeed a gladiator school can feel like a strange brotherhood, bound by oath and blood. The Lannister is like a stern father, the Doctorian uncle or elder brother figure. You have nicknames for each other, teasing and encouraging in equal measure. It's easy to forget, briefly, the deadly serious nature of your profession when you're arguing over who can eat more bread or whose scar is uglier. As you relax, you overhear a pair of new recruits discussing rumors they've heard. One asks, "Is it true the Emperor is coming to the games next month?" The other shrugs, "Perhaps. Word is, he's sponsoring the whole festival. If so, that could mean rich prizes." Such talk buzzes periodically through the ludus, speculation on upcoming matches, whether any important dignitaries will attend, what pairings might be planned. The truth is, as gladiators, you're usually the last to know the specifics until just before the event. The editor, the organizer of the games, often a magistrate or the Emperor's official, works with the Lannister to arrange who fights whom, and those details are often kept quiet to prevent any pre-fight collusion. Still, gossip is inevitable. You've caught wind that you might be scheduled to fight in the next set of games in the city amphitheater, but you don't know who your opponent will be yet. The uncertainty is nerve-wracking for some. A friend of yours, a young fighter due for his first match soon, sits picking at his bread anxiously. You pat his back and reassure him that his training will see him through. In truth, you remember your own first bout, and how the anticipation churned your stomach. It's like waiting for an exam or a battle, except the outcome could be death. Keeping calm is an art you've had to learn. Many gladiators adopt a fatalistic calm. What will be, will be. For now, it's best to enjoy the simple pleasure of a full belly and a moment of rest. After lunch, the Lannister allows a short rest period. In the heat of early afternoon, many of you retreat to the shade or back to your cells to lie down. Romans call this the meridianum tempus, the midday quiet, when even city folk take a break from work. You lie on your cot, feeling a pleasant drowsiness come over you. Your arms feel heavy, your legs tired, in a good way. A soft murmur of conversation drifts through the hallway. Some men are napping. You hear gentle snores from one cell. In another, a pair of gladiators quietly play a game of dice to pass the time. You close your eyes for a few minutes, letting yourself drift. The stone of the cell floor is warm now from the sun. A beam of light falls across you through the barred window, illuminating the motes of dust in the air. As you rest, your mind wanders. You find yourself contemplating the path that brought you here and what the future might hold. Outside the ludus walls, the Roman Empire is vast and ever-changing. You've heard that in some far-off future, perhaps not too distant, these bloody games might fade away. There are whispers that the new sect of Christians, growing in influence, oppose the gladiatorial games, calling them immoral. Indeed, recently one of the men mentioned a Christian writer, Tertullian, who condemned the spectacles as murder and idolatry. Apparently, some officials have even started to limit the worst of the violence. The Emperor Constantine, not long ago, ordered that criminals should no longer be sent to fight as gladiators to the death, preferring to use other punishments. These could be the first signs of the old traditions changing. But as you lay here in the mid-afternoon stillness, it's hard to imagine the end of the gladiator games. The roar of the crowd, the thrill of combat, it feels like these have been part of Rome forever. In fact, the games have endured for centuries, from the Republic through the height of the Empire. They've survived wars, crises, and moral critics alike. And even if emperors occasionally voice disapproval publicly, they often still indulge in the sport themselves. You recall hearing of Emperor Commodus, just a generation or two ago, who personally fought in the arena many times, reveling in the gladiator's role, though his participation scandalized the Roman elite. The people loved it, or at least were awed by it, but the Senate was not amused by an emperor lowering himself to gladiator rank. So for now, the life of the gladiator continues, and you must focus on today, not some uncertain future. A cool breeze wafts through the corridor, bringing with it the smell of olive groves outside the city. It carries also the distant sounds of Rome, or whichever city you are in, the muffled din of a busy metropolis, cartwheels, traders calling out, children laughing somewhere beyond these walls. You realize this is perhaps the calm before the storm for you, because today, unlike a normal training day, is actually a special day. This evening there will be a gladiatorial exhibition, and you are slated to participate. Usually, you train for weeks on end, and only face the arena occasionally. But on a day when the games are scheduled, the routine shifts. This morning's training was lighter than it might otherwise have been, to conserve some of your strength. The Lannister informed you yesterday that you're on the program for today's Munis, a late afternoon series of matches in the local amphitheater. It's not the grandest of games, but important enough. You've been matched against an opponent from another school, a man you've never met. All you've been told is that he fights in the style of a retiarius. So as you sparred with your friend this morning, you were essentially rehearsing for the real contest to come. There's a flutter of nervousness in your belly when you think about it. By nightfall, you will have fought for your life in front of a crowd. For now, you push that thought down and keep your breathing steady. Many of the others resting now are also scheduled to fight. Some show it in their faces, a faraway look in the eyes, a slight tremor in the hands as they loll in semi-sleep. Others, like the veteran Gaul, seem utterly calm, even cheerful, as he snores gently with his mouth open, as if it were any other day. You envy that composure and hope to emulate it. Before long, the rest period is over. Slaves come around to rouse anyone who fell fully asleep. The trainer calls out for everyone to rise and prepare. It's time to get ready for the trip to the arena. You change from your simple training tunic into the garments you'll wear to the amphitheater. For now, it's just a clean tunic and sandals. You'll be armed and armored properly at the venue. The Lannister likes to keep the weapons secure until it's showtime, partly to prevent any desperate last-minute escape attempts or fights. The atmosphere in the ludus is now a mix of excitement and tension. Those not fighting today help their comrades who are. One man helps buckle another's sandals tighter, so they won't slip in combat. A seasoned fighter mutters a prayer or charm and presses a small amulet into your palm, a token for luck from the goddess Nemesis or Fortuna perhaps, the deities often invoked to guide the outcomes of duels. You tuck it into your belt gratefully. In the armory room you briefly check your weapons and armor which have been readied and packed. You run a hand along the edge of your real steel gladius, now sharpened to lethal perfection. The metal is cool and almost reassuring in its solidity. Nearby your helmet gleams dully, the visored face of a secutor's helmet with narrow eye slits that will protect your head in the fight. It has been polished and oiled. You recall the last time you wore it in the arena, how the inside smells of metal and sweat, how the restricted vision forces you to focus straight ahead. These pieces of equipment are like extensions of your body at this point. The trainers have drilled you relentlessly in using them. You trust your gear. It's the unknown opponent that worries you more. A small caravan forms in the courtyard. A line of caged wagons and a couple of ox-drawn carts wait outside the gates. It's time to depart for the amphitheater. The city's arena might be a short walk away, but as a precaution, gladiators are usually transported under guard. If it's a smaller town, you might even walk in a chained column. In a larger city, they often load you into wagons to keep you separated from the public and to prevent any attempts at escape or rescue en route. Your group today is perhaps a dozen gladiators from your ludus, all scheduled to appear in various matches. The rest will stay behind, resuming normal training or duties. With a creak and clank, the gates of the school open. Bright afternoon light floods in as you step out under the open sky beyond the compound. A few curious onlookers cheer lightly or wave at the sight of armed gladiators being led out. The guards, burly men loyal to the Lannister, herd you toward the wagons. You climb into one with 4 others. The door is latched shut behind you. Through the wooden slats, you can see the streets as the procession begins to move. It's a jostling ride. You steady yourself and take the opportunity to calm your mind. The road is familiar. You've gone this way before. The amphitheater lies just beyond the market district. As the wagon trundles along, you see ordinary life carrying on around you. Market stalls with fruits and pottery, citizens going about their day, children who run alongside the wagon briefly, pretending to be gladiators themselves by brandishing sticks. One boy calls out, "Murmillo, retiarius," excitedly, naming the types, before his mother pulls him back. You manage a slight smile at that. You were once a child like that, perhaps, fascinated by warriors and heroes. Now you are one, at least in the eyes of those children. Your thoughts wander to the role gladiators play in this society. It's strange. You are at once a slave and an entertainer, reviled by some and adored by others. Roman law calls you infames, people of no reputation, barred from rights of citizens. And yet, you are celebrated in the arena. Your portrait might appear in mosaics or graffiti on tavern walls. There are even aristocrats who admire you in secret. You've heard of women painting their walls with images of gladiators or wearing hairpins shaped like tridents. In fact, once after a victory, a noble lady sent a servant to deliver you a laurel wreath and a vial of perfumed oil as gifts. You weren't sure if it was admiration or something more, but it shows the curious social space you occupy. For a couple of hours in the arena, you are a star, the crowd's focus, the subject of cheers, chants, perhaps even desire. After the fight, you go back to chains and cells. It's a life of extremes. Not far from your mind is the ultimate prize every gladiator dreams of, freedom. A wooden rudis, the symbolic wooden sword given to a gladiator upon manumission, indicating he has earned his release. It's rare but not impossible. A few exceptional fighters have been granted the rudis after a string of victories or a particularly awe-inspiring performance. It represents a second chance at life, an end to this deadly cycle. You occasionally allow yourself to imagine that moment, the day you could walk out of the arena a free man, to cheers rather than to prison gates. But first you must survive match after match and impress the right people. The rumbling of the cart slows and then stops. You've arrived at the amphitheater. You hear the dull roar of a crowd, muffled by the thick walls of the arena, but unmistakable, a low collective excitement. Your heart quickens. Even though you're not on stage yet, the energy of the spectators reaches you. The wagon door opens, and guards motion for you to climb out. Blinking in the bright light, you see the oval structure of the amphitheater looming over you, stone arches and tiered seats brimming with people. This is not the massive Colosseum of Rome. If you were in Rome, you'd have likely used the special tunnel from the Ludus Magnus directly into the amphitheater, but a regional arena that is still sizable and imposing in its own right. The exterior is decorated with banners for today's games, and vendors outside hawk food, drinks and tokens of favorite fighters. You and your fellows are herded through a side entrance into the bowels of the amphitheater. Immediately the air becomes cooler and smells of damp stone, mixed with the not-so-pleasant odors of animals and blood. It's dim in these passages, lit by torches. You pass holding pens where you glimpse caged beasts, lions or leopards brought for the earlier Venetians' beast hunts perhaps. They are restless, pacing behind their bars. Farther in, you come to a wider chamber bustling with activity, the backstage of the arena. This is the gladiators' ready room, where fighters from various schools gather before stepping out to combat. You see a couple of duelists who must have already fought. One sits on a stool, being stitched up by a medicus, a bloody gash on his thigh. Another lies motionless on a stretcher with a cloak over his face. You swallow, realizing he didn't make it. The reality of the danger sharpens in your gut, but you keep your expression steady. Your group fans out to designated areas. Assistants and armorers from your ludus meet you to help don your battle gear. You remove your simple tunic and sandals, switching to the sandals with nail-studded soles for better grip on the sand. Then you strap on the pieces of armor, protective leather padding first, then metal greaves on your shins. Next you fasten your arm guard, the manica on your right arm. It's layered linen and leather with metal strips, covering from shoulder to wrist. Your heart is thudding a bit faster now. You put on your belt and loincloth, and an attendant hands you your helmet. It's a heavy piece, a rounded helmet with a smooth dome and small eye openings, distinctive to the secutor type, designed to prevent a retiarius's trident from easily poking through. You decide to hold off putting the helmet on until the last moment, to breathe freely a bit longer. Your trusted sword is given to you, along with your large rectangular shield, the scutum. You grip the sword's hilt, its comforting in your palm, an extension of your body after all the training. A thin film of oil is on the blade to keep it from rust, It glints even in the dim torchlight. The shield's weight is familiar on your left arm. You rotate it once to test the straps. Everything is in order. One of the school's servants offers to dab some perfumed oil on your skin, a small touch to make gladiators smell pleasant to the audience when they parade. You let him anoint your forehead and hair with a whiff of myrrh and olive oil. Another attendant quickly checks you over. He runs a cloth over your sword one last time and gives you a slap on the shoulder with a forced grin. "Fortuna be with you," he says. You nod in thanks. Nearby, you see your opponent getting ready. The retiarius stands out. He wears no helmet. His head is bare with short-cropped hair. Instead of heavy armor, he has a high metal shoulder guard on his left side, a gallerus to protect his neck, and a thick arm guard on one arm. He's pulling a net through his hands, coiling it and testing its weights, and a three-pronged trident leans against the wall next to him. He looks lean and quick, a stark contrast to you in your heavy gear. You catch his eye for a moment. He gives a curt nod. There's no open hostility, just a tense acknowledgement. You both know you'll be trying to kill, or at least defeat each other soon, but there's also a strange camaraderie in being in the same deadly show. Above, the crowd's noise surges now and then. You can make out the muffled announcements of the arena herald. Likely the beast hunts have finished, and the public executions of criminals, the Noxy, might be underway or just ending. These typically occur before the gladiator bouts. You hear a distant roar, perhaps a lion, and then cheering and laughter. Possibly a condemned prisoner just met a gruesome end to amuse the masses. You steady your breathing. This is the world you operate in. Life and death as entertainment. You push from your mind the horrors of the executions and focus on your role, which is more honorable by comparison. At least you have a fighting chance and some skill. Finally, a trumpet sound and a crier's voice signal that the main event is about to begin. The gladiatorial matches. The editor of the games, a local magistrate, likely gave a speech, and now the procession starts. Yes, tradition dictates a processional entrance, the pompa. All the gladiators scheduled to fight in this segment will enter the arena together in a parade to salute the dignitary and the crowd. A veteran stands at the doorway and gestures for you and the others to line up. You form a column with your fellow fighters, with pairs of opponents naturally standing near each other. You slide your helmet on now. Its interior pads press against your cheeks. Your world narrows to the view through two small eye holes. The sounds also become more muffled and echoey inside the bronze helm, but you can still hear the crowd, now a steady roar of anticipation. Forward, march, comes the command. Your column walks through the dark gate and into the bright light of the arena. Stepping out onto the sand, you are greeted by a blast of warm air and the deafening sound of thousands of spectators. Even though your vision is limited, you can see the vast expanse of humanity rising in tiers around you. From the affluent front row seats, where you glimpse senators' togas and perhaps the glint of the editor's official regalia, up to the cheap seats at the top, where the common folk cheer just as loudly. The arena floor under your sandaled feet is warm and slightly springy. It was raked smooth after the previous events, though here and there darker patches hint at where blood may have soaked in earlier in the day. You hold your head high and march with a measured, dignified stride. Around you, other gladiators do the same. This is a show of confidence and sportsmanship before the bloodshed. The sun is blinding at first, but as your eyes adjust, you catch the pageantry of the scene. Trumpeters playing a fanfare, the governor or magistrate standing in his box, and colourful awnings, the velarium, partially drawn overhead to shade portions of the crowd. Banners flutter, and the noise of the crowd resolves into distinct sounds, calls, whistles, applause. Some spectators call out names of their favourite gladiators. You even hear your name shouted. Perhaps someone who has seen you fight before is cheering for you now. A strange warmth spreads in your chest at that thought. Though you are a mere fighter, in this moment you matter to these people. The procession makes a circuit of the arena. Then, at a signal, you all stop and turn towards the elevated podium where the host of the games sits, possibly alongside any distinguished guests, maybe even the emperor, if this were Rome or a major festival. In unison, dozens of voices, including yours, boom out the traditional salute. Ave imperator, morituri te salutant. Hail emperor or leader, those who are about to die salute you. It's a ritual phrase. Even if the emperor himself is not present, you salute the sponsor of the games with it, or a similar gesture. The official acknowledges with a nod. The crowd erupts in approval at this display. They love the pomp and ceremony. With formalities done, the gladiators break formation and move to the sides of the arena, awaiting their turn. Usually pairs will be called forth one by one. The order of matches is arranged to build excitement, typically saving the most anticipated or skilled bout for last. You and your opponent are slated somewhere in the middle of the roster, so you step back toward one curved wall of the arena, among a group of fellow fighters who also wait. You stand in the shade of the perimeter wall, thankful for a brief respite from the sun. Your heartbeat is steady but faster than normal. You flex your fingers around your sword hilt, noticing that your palms have begun to sweat inside your leather gloves. You take a deep breath. Through the eye slits, you watch the first match commence. 2 gladiators have been announced, and now meet in the center. One is a heavily armored murmillo, the other a lightly equipped Thracian. At a signal from the referee, usually a man in tunic with a staff, present to oversee the fight, the duel begins. You watch intently, not just as a spectator, but as a student of the fight. Each move could teach you something. They clash shield against shield, sword against sword. The murmillo's style is powerful, chopping strokes, while the Thracian dances around, looking for an opening with his curved blade. The crowd cheers every close call and every impressive defense. From where you stand, you can even pick out faces in the front rows reacting, leaning forward in excitement, or wincing, or shouting advice as if the fighters could hear them. It's a strange theater, the noise, the sun, the blood-stained sand, and the life and death stakes all wrapped together. The fight goes on for several minutes. The murmillo seems to tire from chasing his nimble opponent. With a sudden deft maneuver, the Thracian trips the murmillo and sends him sprawling on his back. A collective gasp from the crowd. The murmillo attempts to recover, lifting his big shield, but the Thracian is quicker. He places his blade at the fallen man's throat. The murmillo freezes, knowing it's over. He has yielded, essentially. The referee strides forward, separating them and halting the fight. Now comes the dramatic moment. Will the defeated be spared, missio, or not? The Thracian victor steps back and raises his left hand, appealing to the podium. The murmillo on the ground lifts a finger, the traditional sign pleading for mercy. All eyes turn to the editor, and often the crowd's mood influences him. The crowd roars with mixed cries, some yelling to spare, others thirsting for blood. The decision is usually indicated by hand gesture. In this case, the sponsor waves his hand with thumb turned. It appears he grants mercy. The referee confirms and motions for the Thracian to stand down. The losing murmillo's life is spared. He will live to fight another day, albeit having lost some honor in defeat. The audience applauds. They got their excitement and a dramatic conclusion without a death this time. Attendants rush in to help the beaten man up and tend to any wounds. Both fighters exit the arena, one jubilant, one limping, to rest in the corridors beneath. You breathe a slight sigh of relief under your helmet. It is somehow reassuring to see mercy in action. Roman crowds do not always demand death. In fact, many matches end with both participants alive, especially if they fought well. The goal is entertainment, not slaughter for its own sake. Executions are for the truly condemned or hapless. Gladiators, being costly and often skilled performers, are not simply killed off unless it serves the spectacle, or they fought poorly. Of course, plenty of matches do end in death when one cannot continue, but it's not guaranteed. You steel yourself with that thought. Fight bravely and well, and even if you fall, you might be spared. Several more pairs are called out in turn. From your waiting spot, you witness a variety of combats, a provocateur versus a provocateur. They are more heavily armored, chest plates gleaming, a rather slow, methodical duel that ends with one disarmed and yielding. Then a spectacular bout between a bestiarius, beast fighter, and an actual animal, a bear or bull, which gets the crowd roaring at something different. The bestiarius skillfully dodges the beast and dispatches it with a well-placed spear thrust, winning applause. Although not a gladiator-to-gladiator fight, these animal bouts are interspersed to keep the audience engaged. You watch as the poor beast collapses and is dragged away by a team of arena slaves. The sand is raked quickly to cover blood. A sip of water is offered to you by an attendant. You tilt your helmet back slightly to drink it, grateful for moisture on your dry throat. Then you hear your name called by the herald. It's time. You roll your shoulders once to keep them loose and step forward out of the shade, into the full glare of the late afternoon sun. Your opponent, the retiarius, is stepping out from the opposite side. The noise of the crowd swells, for they recognize the classic matchup, the heavily armed secutor against the lightly armed netman. It's a popular pairing, symbolizing a contest of opposites, weight versus speed, offense versus cunning. Some fans specifically love one side or the other and shout accordingly. Get him, fisherman, someone calls to the retiarius. The net fighter is often caricatured as a fisherman hunting a big fish, since the murmillo, or secutor's helmet crest, sometimes resembles a fish, and the netman wields a trident like Neptune. From another quarter you hear fortune favor the secutor, likely aimed at you. You stride to the center, shield up, sword at the ready. Your opponent stands about 10 paces away, trident in one hand, weighted net in the other. His torso is mostly bare, save for a loincloth and a leather harness, and his skin glistens with sweat and oil. He has a confident half-smile on his face. Perhaps he's experienced in this. You cannot see your own face, hidden by the visored helmet, but you set your expression to one of calm determination. Inside you feel a flutter in your stomach, but also a clarity that comes with focus. This is it, the moment all your training leads to. Strange in this second, you recall the quiet dawn and your bowl of barley porridge. It seems a world away from the intensity of the arena now, yet it's that routine that steadied you for this trial. The referee stands to the side, eyeing both of you. He gives the signal to begin. A trumpet sounds briefly. The duel is underway. You and the retiarius begin to circle each other warily on the hot sand. The crowd's noise recedes in your ears as your attention narrows to the man in front of you. He holds his net loosely, making small swings with it, testing your reactions. His trident is raised, gleaming three-pronged steel, ready to stab or slash. You present your shield toward him, angled to deflect any sudden thrusts, and keep your sword hand back for now. The dance has started, each of you waiting for the other to make the first bold move. Suddenly, he feints with the net, a quick toss toward your face. You instinctively raise your shield to block the weighted corners of the net. In a flash, he uses that moment to thrust with the trident low at your legs. The prongs scrape your greave, but you twist away just in time, avoiding a dangerous jab near the knee. The crowd reacts with a gasp at how close it was. Sand is kicked up around your feet as you regain stance. Immediately, you counterattack. You lunge forward with your sword, aiming a slash at his exposed right side. He jumps back lightly. He's fast, as expected, and your blade cuts only empty air, perhaps grazing the fabric of his loincloth. Now he tries to capitalize on your forward momentum. With a grunt, he flings the net fully at you. You see the mesh expanding in the corner of your vision, and swipe. You bring your sword across just in time to bat the net aside before it ensnares you. One of the lead weights on the net strikes your helmet and glances off with a metallic ding. For a split second, corded rope drapes over your sword arm, but you yank free. You manage to avoid being tangled, a close call. The retiarius curses under his breath. You hear it faintly. His first cast missed, and now his net is partially on the ground between you. The crowd noise swells at this flurry of action. They love a good exchange. You hear applause and shouts. This is what they came for. Dust motes dance in the sunlight as you shuffle through the sand. Your opponent retrieves his net with a swift tug, gathering it back. You seize the moment to press the attack, knowing a netman is vulnerable right after a throw. You charge with 2 quick steps and swing a powerful overhead blow at him. He manages to get the shaft of his trident up to block it, and sword clangs on metal. The impact reverberates through your arm. He staggers back a step from the force. Encouraged, you drive in closer, shield first, trying to use your body weight. You bash with your shield, catching him on his shoulder. He's knocked off balance and falls to the sand on his rear with a grunt of pain. A cheer rises. It looks like you might have him. You raise your sword, poised to strike down at him, but he rolls desperately to the side. Your blade bites into the sand where his thigh was a heartbeat ago. He's scrambling to his feet, and you advance, not giving him space. He thrusts the trident wildly from a low position, and one prong catches the side of your left calf, a sharp sting. You hiss, stepping back instinctively. A line of red warmth trickles down your leg. It's a shallow puncture, not deep, but it's the first blood drawn in this fight. The crowd roars at the sight of blood, minor as it is. The sting is manageable. It actually sharpens your resolve. Now both standing again, you and the retiarius circle once more cautiously. Each of you has learned something of the other. He knows you won't be easily trapped, and you know he can be dangerous even off balance. You see his chest heaving, the exertion and stress catching up. You're breathing hard too, sweat soaking your brow inside the helmet. The fight has only been a couple of minutes, but it feels longer. Time stretches strangely in combat. He flicks the net again, but this time it's a ploy. He doesn't release it, he just distracts. Instead he suddenly lunges with the trident, a straight thrust aimed high. You raise your shield and catch the trident's prongs on it. Thunk. Two of the prongs embed into the thick wood of your shield and momentarily stick there. Seizing your chance, you twist your shield and yank it downward. This movement pulls the trident out of his hands. The weapon clatters to the ground, freed from both your shield and his grip. Now he's weaponless, except for a dagger at his waist. The crowd erupts at this turn of events. Such disarming is often the beginning of the end. He doesn't hesitate. In one motion, he draws his small Peugeot dagger, and with the other hand, desperately snaps the net toward you. The net billows out, but not with full extension. He's too close, and without the trident, his form is a bit frantic. It grazes your helmet, momentarily obscuring your vision as the mesh drapes over your faceplate. He rushes in, dagger aimed at a gap in your armor, but you manage to shake off the net from your helmet and meet him chest to chest. His dagger scrapes your side, finding a chink, but not plunging deep. You feel a sharp burn along your rib cage. You ignore the pain and slam your shield forward at point-blank range, a brutal punch with the metal rim. It catches him under the ribs. He gasps, air rushing out, and staggers back, doubling over. This is your moment. With the net off and your opponent reeling, you raise your sword. You could strike a killing blow now as he's exposed. You draw your arm back, and then you hesitate just for a heartbeat. The trainers taught you to pause when an opponent is clearly beaten, to see if he yields, and indeed, in that heartbeat, you see him drop his dagger and fall to one knee, holding his side. He extends his arm upward, with index finger raised, the gesture of surrender. It is an appeal for mercy, and by the code of the arena, you should honor that pause. The referee steps forward between you, raising his staff, indicating the fight's halt. You breathe hard, adrenaline coursing, your sword still raised. The crowd is a cacophony now, some booing perhaps, those wanting a death, many cheering your victory, others shouting their opinions about the fate of the Retamurius. You lower your sword slightly and take a step back, chest heaving. A trickle of sweat runs down your temple inside the stifling helmet. It's over. You have won. The Retarius is defeated and kneeling, awaiting judgment. Your blood sings with the thrill of triumph and relief that you are still alive. You become more aware of your wounds now that the frenzy of combat subsides. A throbbing cut on your calf, a sting at your ribs, both wet spots of warmth but likely superficial. You can stand firmly, and that's what matters. The referee holds up his hand and loudly proclaims the match's outcome to the stands. Now all focus turns to the editor of the games, who will decide the fate of the defeated gladiator. You stand a few paces aside, catching your breath, as the Retarius kneels in the sand, chest rising and falling rapidly, sweat dripping from his face. He's bruised and beaten, but alive. He keeps his finger raised, arm trembling with the effort. The tradition now, the editor confers with the crowd's mood and makes a call, life or death. You scan the amphitheater's rows through the narrow vision of your helmet. Some spectators are making the mercy gesture, waving hand or covering thumbs. Others making a kill gesture, perhaps thumbs down or gestures to the throat. The historical specifics of thumb signals are debated, but to you what matters is reading the collective will. It seems the crowd has enjoyed a spirited fight from both of you. The Retarius put up a good show with his agility, and you demonstrated prowess by disarming him. The entertainment was satisfactory, and neither of you acted cowardly. Often in such cases, the audience leans toward mercy, since they'd like to see good fighters again in the future. You hear a chant rising. It's your name intertwined with his, and the word mite, meaning release him, being shouted by some. Others are shouting iugula, throat, urging death, but they seem fewer. The editor stands and extends his arm with thumb upward, a sign of mercy, at least in this region's custom. The referee sees it and announces loudly that the Retarius is to be spared. You exhale deeply, not realizing you were holding your breath. A wave of approval flows through the crowd. Many clap at the display of clemency and the sportsmanship of it all. Two attendants come over to the kneeling man and help him up. He's injured but not mortally. He will live to fight again after he heals. He gives you a faint, weary smile of gratitude and mouths, "Thank you." Though ultimately it was the editor's decision, you gave him the chance by not striking a killing blow immediately. You nod once in return, a subtle acknowledgement between warriors. In another life, you might even share a drink as comrades. But here and now, fate cast you as adversaries. Both of you are lucky to walk away. The announcer declares you the victor of the match, and a surge of pride warms you despite your exhaustion. The crowd is cheering for you now. Some toss small tokens into the arena. Flowers, coins perhaps, a sign of favor. You see a few rose petals flutter onto the sand near your feet, and a shiny silver coin clink and roll to a stop. A minor prize from a generous spectator may be meant for whichever fighter won. The referee gestures for you to make a circuit of the arena to receive accolades. You comply, limping slightly on your cut leg, but keeping a proud posture. You raise your sword, though not too high, mindful of the weight and your tired arm, and salute the crowd. They roar in delight. In that moment you feel almost euphoric. The mix of adrenaline, relief, and the adulation of the audience is a potent rush. This is one reason some free men volunteer to be gladiators despite the risks. The glory and thrill can be intoxicating. It's a feeling like no other, hearing so many voices chant and clap for you, a mere slave and fighter elevated to hero, if only for a fleeting afternoon. Completing your salute, you head toward the exit gate of the arena, as directed by the staff. You pass by the editor's podium. An attendant might hand you a palm branch, symbol of victory, which you take graciously and hold up for the crowd to see one more time. Sometimes victors also receive a prize money purse. On this occasion, a games official approaches and discreetly hands you a small leather pouch, likely a few sesterces as your share of the win, the rest going to your lanista. You nod respectfully. Every coin helps. Not that you can buy your freedom outright, but some lanista allow gladiators to keep savings or buy small comforts. Finally, you walk out through the gate by which you entered, leaving the bright chaos of the arena for the cool shadows of the corridor. Immediately, a team of medics and slaves approaches. They support you if you look unsteady and quickly begin assessing your wounds. You remove your helmet, grateful to breathe open air again. The sudden removal of its weight and the exposure of your ears to normal sound makes the world feel oddly quiet and echoey in the halls. You can still hear the muffled cheers outside, as another pair of fighters is likely coming on for the next match, keeping the crowd's excitement rolling. But for you, the fight is done. The medics first examine the cut on your calf. It's bleeding moderately, staining your sandal and the sand on the floor. One medic kneels and cleans it with a sponge soaked in wine. It stings sharply, you wince. Then he applies a thick paste, some concoction of herbs and vinegar, and wraps a bandage tightly around your lower leg. Another medic checks the slash on your rib area. Your torso armor prevented a deep stab, but there's a shallow laceration where his dagger slipped in. They cut away a bit of your tunic to clean and bandage that too. A slave offers you watered wine to drink. You gladly take a few gulps. The liquid cools your parched throat, and the wine's slight bite is soothing in its own way. Your body is coming down from the adrenaline high. Now you feel tiredness spreading through your limbs, and a tenderness in every muscle that was exerted. A bruise is already forming, where the net's weight struck your helmet, and by extension your head. A little knot on your scalp throbs. The medics do a quick check for any concussion, peering into your eyes, but you seem fine, just a slight bump. They give you a pat on the shoulder. You'll live. Good fight, one says. These medics, including the physician of the school if present, are quite skilled. Gladiators get excellent medical care, better than many ordinary people, because their lives are valuable investments to the Lannister. Wounds are treated promptly to prevent infection, broken bones set and rehabilitated, and you even receive massages to ease muscle pain after hard training. In fact, as you walk further into the backstage area, one of the staff is offering to rub down any fighter who needs it. You might take that up later, but for now you just want a moment to yourself. Your fellow gladiators from the ludus gather around as you return to your cohort's waiting area. Those who haven't fought yet slap your back and congratulate you. The ones who have already fought and won nod knowingly, a kind of welcome back alive gesture. A few even grin and say drinks are on you tonight, jokingly, implying your prize money should treat them. Not that you have freedom to buy drinks, but perhaps within the ludus there'll be extra rations of wine to celebrate victories. The camaraderie swells. Interestingly, even gladiators from other schools sometimes offer a respectful nod or word if they were impressed, professionals recognizing good work. The Retiarius you defeated is not here. He's likely been taken to have his wounds tended more thoroughly, perhaps even to the infirmary if needed. You silently wish him a good recovery. There is no deep hatred between you. It was business, a deadly dance both of you were coerced to perform. Once all bouts are concluded and the show ends with a final fanfare, your group prepares to depart back to the ludus. The sun is getting low, casting long shadows across the bloody trampled sand as crews begin the cleanup. You feel a wave of weariness now. The excitement of the arena fades behind you as you're escorted back to the wagons, this time as triumphant survivors. Back through the streets you go, passing crowds of spectators now flooding out of the amphitheater discussing the day's events animatedly. You catch snippets. Did you see that net fight? Incredible. I won 5 denarii betting on the secutor. He fought well. It dawns on you that your deeds are now stories on strangers' lips, at least for tonight. Perhaps in a tavern somewhere your match will be recounted over cups of wine. It's a strange kind of fame, one you cannot fully partake in as a free person would, but it surrounds you nonetheless. Reaching the Gladiator school, you are all relieved to be home. The familiar smell of the training yard, the sight of the cells and barracks, it's comforting after the unpredictability of the arena. The Lannister is waiting to greet the returning fighters. He looks pleased enough. No one from your group was killed, and there were several victories. That's good for his reputation and purse. He speaks a few words of commendation. Well done. You've brought honor to the ludus and entertained the crowd. He might be a harsh taskmaster, but in moments like this, he knows morale matters. He even permits a bit of a celebration tonight. He signals for extra wine and food to be given at dinner. Before dinner, you have a chance to properly wash and dress your wounds. You and a couple of others head to the simple baths adjacent to the training yard. It's not a grand Roman bathhouse, but there are basins of clean water and a heated pool large enough to sit in. You strip off the dirty, bloodied tunic and gear. Your body is a patchwork of bruises and a few bandaged cuts, but it could have been far worse. Easing into the lukewarm water of the bath, you close your eyes and let out a long sigh. Ah, this is relief. The water stings slightly on your cut leg, but soon soothes it. 2 other gladiators join, and for a few minutes you all soak quietly, letting the water relax cramped muscles. One man starts humming a little tune, a lullaby from his homeland, and you smirk, a fierce fighter singing so softly. But here, off the sands, you're all just human beings trying to find peace in small moments. After bathing, you dress in a fresh, simple tunic and gather in the dining hall. Tonight's supper is more ample than usual, courtesy of the Lannisters' reward for a good showing. There's a hearty stew of lentils and vegetables, supplemented by some roast pork, a rare treat to have meat, as the gladiator diet is mostly vegetarian. You ladle a second helping gratefully. There's also as much bread as you want, and even a few jugs of decent watered wine being passed around. By the flickering light of oil lamps, you and your fellow fighters eat and share the events of the day. Laughter erupts when someone reenacts the clumsy moment one of our own nearly tripped over a carcass in the arena. Happily, he recovered and won his match. You chew slowly, every bite bringing back energy to your exhausted body. The wine warms you and dulls the ache of your bruises. Across the table, the young gladiator who was nervous before his first fight now beams with pride. He survived and actually got a draw. Both fighters were too injured to continue, so it was called off with no decisive kill, which sometimes happens. We toast him, and he blushes, no longer a novice but a proven man now in the Brotherhood. The Lannister even pokes his head in and raises a cup to all of you. This is as festive as the ludus gets, a brief night of levity in a life that could be grim. As the hour grows late, fatigue really sets in. One by one, the gladiators drift off to their cells to sleep. You step outside into the courtyard for a moment before bed. The sky is a deep black purple, clear, with a scattering of bright stars. The air is much cooler now and carries the earthy scent of the day's sand and sweat, along with a whiff of distant cook fires from the city. You breathe it in, letting the coolness fill your lungs. It has been a full day, morning drills, afternoon battle, evening camaraderie. A day in the life of a gladiator, in all its intensity, is drawing to a close. You find yourself reflecting in this quiet moment. You gaze up at the stars, tiny points of light over a dark Roman sky, and your mind wanders. What do you feel? Perhaps gratitude, to be alive, to still be standing under these stars when others fell today. Perhaps weariness, the kind that goes beyond physical, a spiritual exhaustion from living on the edge of life and death continually, possibly a hint of contentment, too. You performed your role well, earned the crowd's acclaim, and came home with your brothers, all of you alive. You might even allow a small smile of pride as you recall how the crowd cheered your victory. Leaning against one of the wooden practice posts now still in the moonlight, you think of those who came before and those who will come after, gladiators of earlier ages. You wonder if a century from now some gladiator will stand in a similar courtyard, feeling the same mixture of triumph and fatigue. Will the games still continue that long, or will they cease? One of the medics earlier was murmuring about how the Emperor Honorius, who rules the Western Empire now, is no fan of the games. Rumor has it he might end them entirely soon. You don't know if that's true or even possible. It's hard to imagine Rome without gladiators. But someday, maybe the sands will fall silent. The thought is strangely melancholic. What would become of men like you then? Would society remember you as warriors, as entertainers, or simply as victims of a cruel sport? It's too vast a thought for now. You shrug it off. You are here in the present, and the present reality is that the arena awaits again in due time. For tonight, however, there is peace. The ludus is quiet, except for the sounds of a few men snoring, and the soft chirp of crickets somewhere outside. You walk slowly to your cell. By habit, you check that your cherished items are still tucked in the corner, a small wooden carving your father gave you, or a lucky charm you carry. Satisfied, you lay down on your straw cot. Your body complains a bit as you find a comfortable position. There's the twinge in your rib where the dagger cut, and the throb in your leg. You adjust, finding a pose that doesn't aggravate anything too much. A thin blanket is there for you. You pull it over yourself. The night air has a chill compared to the day's heat, and your skin, still slightly damp from bathing, cools rapidly. The blanket's rough wool warms you gradually. In the darkness of your little cell, you feel an enveloping calm. The adrenaline of combat is long gone, replaced by the heaviness of impending sleep. You listen to your own breathing, steady, slowing. Your mind drifts over the day's images, the golden sunrise in the yard, flashes of swords under the noon sun, the reddening sunset as you returned, and now the silvered darkness. So much lived in one cycle of the sun. Such is the life of a gladiator, intense, uncertain, yet marked by routine and fraternity. Your thoughts turn to home, if you have one beyond these walls, maybe a distant memory of family or a place you once knew. If you were a volunteer, you think of why you came here, perhaps debts to erase, glory to attain. If enslaved, you think of those you loved and hope someday fate will reunite you in freedom. These reflections come often at night, when the noise of the world quiets and one's own heart speaks loudest. A gentle ache settles in your limbs, the kind that almost feels pleasant after a hard day. It promises deep sleep. You shift once more, feeling the straw rustle beneath you. Through the small barred window of your cell, a single star beams, casting a tiny ray upon the floor. You find it with your eyes, and almost unconsciously whisper a tiny prayer to Nemesis, or Jupiter, or simply to the universe, thanking the fates for seeing you through another day. There's a weight lifted in knowing you don't have to fight tomorrow, that you have at least a short time to recover and live without peril. Down the hall, someone coughs in their sleep, and another mumbles unintelligibly, dreams taking hold. You allow your eyes to close, surrendering to your own need for rest. Your breathing grows slow and deep. In your mind's eye, scenes of the arena and training ground might flicker, but they begin to soften around the edges. The present safety of your cell cocoons you, and the excitement of the day ebbs into a distant murmur. As you hover on the edge of sleep, a final wave of thoughts washes through. Today, you survived and won. Tomorrow, you will wake to the same routine. The morning call, the barley porridge, the training yard. Day by day, you will persevere, as all gladiators must, clinging to life with each contest, finding meaning in small joys, a friend's laughter, a cooling breeze at dusk, the taste of bread after battle. In a life that can be brutal, these are gentle treasures. Your last conscious sensation is the feeling of the coarse blanket against your skin and the firmness of the cot. Your wounds pulse dully, but not painfully, just enough to remind you they're healing. You feel the fatigue in your bones, making your body heavy, sinking into the mattress. Yet inside, there is a quiet triumph. You faced death in the arena and walked away. dust and blood have been washed from your body, and now only a peaceful weariness remains. In the silence, you hear your own heartbeat slowing to a calm, steady rhythm. The world of sand and steel fades away for now, left outside the doorstep of slumber. You have earned this rest. The ludus sleeps, and so do you. Slowly, gently, you drift into sleep, the image of the dim torchlight in the hall dancing on the back of your eyelids. Perhaps you dream of open fields, or past freedoms, or perhaps simply of the cheers of the crowd echoing and then quieting into a lullaby of approval. The heavy doors of the Gladiator school are shut for the night, keeping all of you safe inside until dawn calls again. For now, in this very moment, you are at peace. The day in the life of a Roman gladiator ends not with the clash of swords, but with the soft embrace of darkness and the hope that tomorrow's sun will find you alive and strong once more. In the still night, you surrender to rest, every breath releasing the day's burdens. Eventually, your mind clears, and there is only darkness, comfort, and the silent stars above. You sleep, and the world sleeps with you, quiet, calm, and safe, until the morning light comes to start another day.